Hey y'all, welcome to today's show. Today, probably a very short show actually. We're just going to wrap up the topic we've been discussing, I guess, now for 5 days, from Father Sparago's exhaustive catechism of the Catholic Church. But first, let's turn to radio replies, where the questioner, I guess I would say states, definitely isn't a question, but he says, if one has to be a Catholic to get to heaven, I shall be glad to stay outside. And they answer, that is an absurd statement, for there is no eternal happiness outside of heaven. But I understand what you mean. You believe that the Catholic Church to be wrong, and you will not do what you believe to be evil, that good may come. It's a very charitable take on that. I have actually spoken with several anti-Catholics who will literally say, if the only way to go to heaven is to be Catholic, I'd rather go to hell. And they mean it. They hate the church that was founded by Jesus Christ. They hate Christ and his church that much while professing to love him. Mainly, when it comes down, they hate Catholics. Forget the church. They hate you and me so much they don't want to spend eternity with us. And I'm not kidding. That's not an uncommon sentiment among anti-Catholic so-called Christian Protestants. They will literally say, if the Catholic Church is right, I want to go to hell. I don't want to have anything to do with Jesus, nothing to do with God the Father or the Holy Spirit. They would rather spend eternity in hell than with Catholics. And it's a matter of pride. I mean, that's actually what Satan said. He said he would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. They are literally taking the satanic position of saying, if the Catholic Church is right, they would choose hell over God and what he has instituted. They would literally choose to spend eternity with demons and the damned than with Catholics. I'm telling you, I don't know how much certain people think things through, but there's a lot of really messed up stuff on the Protestant side of the coin. A lot of really what we call antichrist teachings and sentiment. People who literally hate their fellow Christians so much that if they have to accept their denomination as true, they would rather go to hell. That's, man, that one's beyond me. I'm not kidding. That is beyond me. I cannot understand. I mean, let's say a Muslim I was debating with a Muslim, okay, and a Muslim said, "What if I'm right and the only way to go to heaven is to be a Muslim?" I'd say, "Well, then I would hope, that God would convince me of that before I die, or given our doctrine of purgatory, God would enlighten me of that." Because my number one goal is to serve God. Now, of course, I don't believe that to be true. I believe the Catholic Church to be the one true religion on earth and the one true Christian church. But if someone posited me that question, I would say, well, if that is true, I would hope that I get a chance to find it out before it's too late. And then, of course, I would be compelled to become Muslim. If God himself said this is the true religion, to worship God, I would have to follow what he said. What many Protestants say, and actually, many Muslims who hate the Catholic Church will say the same thing, they would choose hell over being Catholic rather than admit to the truth of the Catholic Church. And that's astounding to me. That's mind-boggling. I can't even begin to understand that, it is actually truly sinful. It's pride. It's a sin of arrogance and pride and hubris, and it's actually a mortal sin. And I don't think they even realize it. They're so convinced Catholics are wrong, and they're so convinced that their denomination is right, that they're willing to stand on it to the very end and even defy God himself. And, I don't know how you can be Christian and be willing to defy God himself. But, whatever. It's far more common than not, actually. When I was at a certain Southern Baptist university, That was basically the prevailing attitude. And how do you? Well, you can't. You cannot debate with a person like that. You cannot convince a person. You cannot have a productive argument if they are literally willing to go to hell rather than to believe that the Catholic Church is right in any way. In any way. They would not, at the university, at the Baptist University, they would not even admit that Catholics were Christian. Let that sink in. 2,000 years of the Catholic Church. All Christians were Catholic up until about 500 years ago. Not even really that long. To this day, the majority of Christians are Catholic. Protestantism is new, man-made, and they swear to it to the point that they will reject the Catholic Church even if they knew that it was God's will that they be part of that church. I can't get it. I honestly can't. Anyway, he says, but God does not want you to do that, and nor do I. As long as you believe the Catholic Church to be wrong, you are obliged not to join it. In other words, you don't have to violate your conscience. Yet if ever God gives you the grace to perceive the truth, you will be obliged to join it, no matter what the cost in renouncing your previous statement and attachments. And the person says, if a Catholic leaves his church and outside that church lives a good and devout life, can he be saved? And they answer yes. And they answer, you give an impossible case. To live a devout life is to live a life devoted to God. Now, no Catholic can have a really sufficient reason to doubt the truth of his church. If doubts do come, he owes it to God to make sure of his position before he acts. An inquiry will show that such doubts will be unfounded. If he leaves without such inquiry, he is to blame for throwing away the best of God's gifts. If he inquires sincerely, he stays. The person says, but what if he be fully convinced that the Catholic Church is wrong, even though his conscience be erroneous? Would you blame him for leaving rather than violate his conscience by remaining? And they answer, I would blame him for allowing his conscience to become so convinced by insufficient reason, and for not studying the grounds which absolutely guarantee the Catholic Church is the only completely Christian church. His first difficulty should have led him to seek advice from competent guides. And the person asks, so if a Catholic becomes a Protestant, he has no hope? And they answer, whilst there is life, there is always hope. Where there is life, there is hope. Wonderful saying. Such a man may return to the Catholic Church, or at least die sincerely repenting of having ever left it. And he asks, are Protestants free to leave the Protestant Church, yet Catholics not free to leave the Catholic Church? And they answer, one may always renounce error for truth, but one that is free to forsake the truth, but no one. One may always renounce error for truth, but no one is free to forsake the truth for error. And the man says, Christ died for all. He did not say that we must all be Catholics. And they answer, since Christ died for all, it follows that he wants all to belong to the one church he established and endowed with his authority. The person says, many clever men have examined Roman claims and have rejected them. They do not think it necessary to join the Catholic Church. And they answer, equally clever men are convinced of its necessity. After all, there are clever men who reject Christianity itself, but that does not make the truth of Christianity uncertain. We cannot argue from degrees of intelligence in those who accept or reject the Catholic claim. Such differences of human thought prove nothing except that men differ. The real question is not affected. We must study carefully the value of the foundation upon which their claims rest. And we'll stop here. No, you know what? I'll leave this next time. We got like 3 more questions and answers in this chapter, and I'm just going to go on to venial sin. Now, venial sin is very interesting. As you know, Protestants reject that there is any difference between mortal and venial sin, even though the Bible says quite clearly there is. They say all sins equal before God. No, it's not. It actually says in the Bible some sins cry out, and like sins against the Holy Spirit are unforgivable. You know, the very Bible that they hold up as the sole authority refutes their very doctrine, but you know, they really don't understand venial sin. They'll say either that everybody's saved by grace and it doesn't matter what you do. That was Martin Luther's doctrine. He encouraged his followers to commit adultery and murder. Yeah, to steal, to lie. He said it didn't matter a bit, and he in fact encouraged them to do so. Or they'll say, well, sin's really serious and grave, and Catholics are wrong in saying some sins aren't as serious. Well, you can't really have it both ways, but they do. So today we'll get into venial sin. It's short, and we'll wrap it up for probably this week because I got a lot going on. Still having some major issues with the hurricane damage. Seems that, with the power out and it cold and everything, I got busted pipes, a cracked toilet, busted hot water heater, and homeowners insurance denied the claim and has dropped me. I no longer have homeowners insurance. Isn't that great? You pay into it for like 10, 20 years, and then they just come up and say, hurricanes cause flooding, it's an act of God, and we don't cover it. Oh, and besides, we didn't approve of your heating system in the first place, and we would have dropped you before now if we had. Oh, that's nice. And they say, so apply to FEMA, and FEMA hasn't replied in, I guess, 3 weeks now. They're just screwing around doing nothing. They did send me, $750. That's great. But I've got like $20,000 to $40,000 worth of damage. And so FEMA recommends you fill out an SBA loan application. Small business loan. I mean, I don't even understand how it's supposed to work, but it's supposed to be for home restoration. Filled it out, and they denied it because essentially I'm self-employed. And yeah, so they didn't even check my credit or money in the bank or anything. It's just they just outright denied me. So yeah, it's not exactly fun right now, but it'll be all right. I know it'll be all right. But y'all, if you would say a prayer for people in Western North Carolina and throughout, the Appalachian South who are still, and Florida, who are still dealing with the effects of these hurricanes. Still a lot of people without power. Still hearing just horrible, horrible stories of entire families killed in mudslides, and just really, really awful stuff. And, I don't get it. Biden and all them say FEMA's doing a wonderful job. I can't see that they're doing jack squat, and they certainly are not helping me, at least not yet. Every day I log in to see if they've even processed my application. And other than saying I could go stay in a motel room for a few days, which would be cool, but they're booked up within 100 miles from here in any direction. I mean, yeah, that's great. I mean, a lot of people are taking advantage of that, and that's great. They got a warm place to sleep, and they got electricity, and maybe even get a takeout pizza or something, right? All that lodging's taken. I mean, so it's not helping me. And unless I wanted to travel maybe a few hours away, and I may have to do that at some point just to get some hot water or something. Yeah, I mean, they approved my lodging, and they approved that $750 deposit in my bank account, which is awesome. I'm glad to have $750. I mean, it's good to have some help with the groceries and everything, but I got tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage, and unless something comes through, I mean, first of all, every construction crew, every home renovation company, every builder is already booked up well into next year. I'm not going to get any help in fixing what needs to be fixed for months, maybe even a year. I'm going to have to probably do all this myself, and unless FEMA comes through in a way they haven't so far, it's going to be out of pocket. And I'm sure God will provide, but I mean, you're looking at $20,000, $40,000 worth of damage, and you're thinking, I've been paying in for years on home insurance, no help. I pay my taxes, no help. Now I've got to pay this out of my pocket. What the hell? I mean, literally. How is this? I hate to put it in these terms because I mean, my best friend is in Odessa, Ukraine, and I mean, I know what she's been going through, bombing and such, that I couldn't even imagine. But we sent billions of dollars to Ukraine, billions, I mean, like literally almost like $1 million per person. I think last figure I saw was over 100,000 per person. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money we sent to Ukraine. Um, Here I am, a tax-paying, voting citizen of the United States, and it's like, here's $750. Be grateful and act like everything's okay, and don't you dare criticize federal agencies on the internet, or you may even be arrested. I mean, there's still a good 500 people without power in my county. Mine's been in and out a lot. Just got restored again, but now I have no hot water because the hot water here is broken, and um, I don't. Our priorities are, you got to take care of your own citizens first. It's wonderful to help out other people. I mean, the Pope's always saying we need to like give all our money to poor countries and let everybody in from, no, we actually do have to help ourselves first. I mean, that is what the Bible teaches. You care for your own family and then you take care of others, because your responsibility is to your own family first. And Joe Biden's not doing jack squat for us. Kamala Harris isn't doing jack squat for us. Roy Cooper, our governor's not doing jack squat for us. The only person who has been Elon Musk, and in cooperation with President Trump. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm okay. I keep saying to people, they're like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. I've got a roof over my head, and I can put a fire in the fireplace, and I've got access to clean water, and I'm going to survive. God willing. I mean, I don't see anything that's going to prevent me from surviving. I can put food on the table. I can actually get out and drive to the grocery store now. We couldn't do that for a couple of weeks, Um, but this is, I don't see anybody trying to make us whole, as they say. I mean, if a home inspector were to come in right now, he would probably say, well, he'd probably give me a list of things I would have to do to make the house habitable, as he say. You know, in good condition, heat and hot water and everything that you would need. And there's nobody doing that. I mean, I'm glad just to have four walls still standing. A lot of houses were just washed out. But there's no one coming in saying, we're going to make you whole. And honestly, if that isn't the case, what the hell are we paying for? Why are we paying? I mean, you pay homeowners insurance because your mortgage company says you have to. I nobody I've ever talked to has said that when they had damage to their house, fire, water damage, a lightning strike, whatever, that they got all they needed from homeowners insurance. You know who does get all they need from homeowners insurance? The bank. The ones that hold your mortgage. If your house is destroyed, you're pretty much on your own, but the bank gets paid. You'll get a little, just enough to get by, maybe like $750 in a lodging voucher, but the bank is going to get the full value of your property. You also pay mortgage insurance to make sure the bank gets full value of your property. I don't know what we're paying for with our taxes. Honestly, I guess I'm not supposed to say this, but I can't see a lot that FEMA or the National Guard has really done well in Western North Carolina. I think they've caused more problems than good. If anything, they've been just a little help. I can go with that, a little help. But I mean, if somebody's not going to come in and make us all whole, as they say, what have we been paying for? And we pay a lot. We pay a lot in both state and federal taxes. North Carolina has some of the highest state taxes in the entire South. What's going on here? Well, anyway, let me get on to Father Spirago. Just say a prayer for the people that are still having effects from the hurricane. As I say, I'm okay. There are a lot of people that aren't. I'm not going to repeat the stories. If you've been online, if you've been on Twitter or Facebook, if you've watched the news, you've probably heard some horrible things, and they're all true, and it's only like a fraction of the truth. Heartbreaking, terrible things. But I'm just saying, you come in this country illegally, and they give you I don't even, what was it, $1,400 a month? Maybe like more like $2,000, a free cell phone, free lodging, free health care, free schooling, et cetera, free legal representation. And here we are, tax-paying citizens. And their great gift to us is like half the amount they would give one illegal immigrant for 1 month. Something's really not right here. Something's really not adding up. But anyway. So Father Sparago writes of the consequences of venial sin. Venial sin is a slight thing in itself, but it deprives us of much that is good, just as hair, if it gets into the pen, spoils the best handwriting. You probably have no idea what that means. Well, you got to remember people used to write with fountain pens, okay? I have a fountain pen. I like it. I don't use it a lot because my handwriting's not really good enough to justify it. But back then they had dip pens. This was a pen that didn't have an ink cartridge in it, but it was sort of an improvement from the old quill pen. It had a brass tip, and you would dip it into ink and then write. And if one little hair from your hair or your beard or your dog or your cat, whatever, got in there, it would ruin your handwriting. And you could be doing a long official legal document or something, and it had to be just torn up and started over. So anyway, venial sin leads to mortal sin and eventuates in the loss of sanctifying grace. Venial sin makes mortal sin easy. As a spot of decay in an apple gradually spreads until the whole fruit is rotten, so a man who does not heed venial sin will soon fall into mortal sin. As sickness precedes death, so venial sin precedes mortal. He who begins by neglecting trifling faults will end by committing grievous sins. Venial sin may be compared to the dust which settles on our clothes, and if it be not brushed off, it will spoil them in the end. It is the moth that frets away the garment of sanctifying grace. God permits those who make light of venial sin to fall into mortal sin as a chastisement to their negligence. Avoid small sins, says St. John Chrysostom, for they will grow into great sins. He that is unjust in that which is little is unjust in that which is greater. That's Luke 26:10. As one who wants to cleave a log of wood makes a small incision and then drives in the wedge, so the devil tempts us first to commit slight offenses and gradually leads us to greater transgressions. Venial sin is all the more dangerous because it deprives us of many actual graces without which we cannot overcome the assaults of temptation. A mirror which is covered with dust cannot reflect an image clearly. The mirror of the soul, its surface obscured by the dust of venial sin, is almost impervious to the rays of the sun of justice. A personage of distinction cannot be expected to approach a man who is frightfully disfigured by some cutaneous disease, must less embrace him, or even suffer him to kiss his hand. So God will not admit you to his friendship or delight you with his consolations if your soul is defaced by venial sin. Venial sin lessens our diligence in the pursuit of what is good. A trifling indisposition often incapacitates us for the performance of duties of our calling. In like manner, venial sin weakens the will and indisposes it for good works. It diminishes the force of charity and makes a man lukewarm in the service of God. To him may be applied the words of Holy Scripture, "Because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will begin to vomit thee out of my mouth." Revelations 3:16. There are temporal penalties due to venial sin, and these will come down upon us either on earth or after death in purgatory. Zachary was struck dumb because he would not believe the message of the angel, Luke 1:20. Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land because of his incredulity, Numbers 20:12. Ananias and Sapphira fell dead. Let me try that again. Ananias and Sapphira fell dead at St. Peter's feet in consequence of the deception they practiced. Those who at their death are in a state of venial sin will have to pass through the fires of purgatory in order to expiate them before gaining admittance to heaven. On this account the saints inflicted severe penalties upon themselves for the least sin. Venial sin must be a great evil, since God, who is merciful and gracious, who is a merciful and gracious Father, punishes it with such rigor, namely by temporary exclusion from his kingdom and prolonged suffering in purgatory. And that actually wraps up our chapter on sin for the most part, except beginning next week, we will start with vice. And vice grows out of sin. So we got a ways to go, but we've gotten through the bulk of it. Y'all have a good one. Remember the words of St. Padre Pio, pray, hope, and don't worry, and I'll talk to you next time.